Hey everybody, welcome back to the Apostolic Center podcast. Tonight, Cordero and I are joined by Patrick, of course, behind the camera, but also our children's pastors, Brother John and Sister Mikayla Welsh.
Hello.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
We're doing well.
Had a big day yesterday.
Yes.
Yes, it's one of our biggest days of the year. So
Yeah, we had our children's musical yesterday. How many kids participated in that, you think?
there was around 40 kids. 40, actually, there was 40 plus kids that participated. We had some last minute sickness, and there are always kids that kind of show up that we weren't necessarily expecting, and but we of course want them to be a part of the choir and things. So but it kind of evened out. But so we have just a little over 40 that participated.
It was a pretty young group this year too.
Yeah,
and
I thought so.
Yeah, that can kind of be tricky sometimes, but they did all so amazing. I mean, I think they just really, with the feedback from the crowd, you could tell that they were really feeling it, and they just kicked it up to another notch and just kicked it out of the park.
I thought Liam was really funny.
Oh yeah,
Liam, oh my
I was
goodness.
laughing out loud on that.
yeah. He's
Haha, just joking, pal.
yeah. All those just busting your chops.
Yeah, like an old man.
And then he's looking around, he's like, I don't know why everybody's
I
laughing.
know.
Yeah.
There were times where kids would say a line and everyone would start laughing. And they're like, what?
Well, that's what we were talking.
Mhm.
We were up in the media booth and we were, discussing things as the performance was going on, and we're like, I'm sure they just aren't used to having feedback.
No,
They've been
yeah.
doing it to empty the empty sanctuary for a
But
week.
they did great with like pausing for the time for the crowd to kind of give them feedback, and then they would keep going after that. So it was great. And I mean, our kids were amazing, but I'm also really proud that it's a homegrown written script, every word from people in our church.
Who were some of the writers? Or all the writers?
We had Sister Abby Speidel and her family contribute. Sister Charity wrote
Sister
one of the
Charity
scenes.
wrote the Barbie blogger,
Yeah. Andrew McDivitt helped us and wrote one.
and Austin
Um,
Center.
Austin Center also wrote one. I'm trying to think.
Those were the
Yeah.
four scenes.
Yeah.
So
And then Abby wrote like the beginning and the ending. She does so good with like kind of driving the main points home and wrapping it up and all that too. So
Yeah, the kids did a great job
Mhm.
preaching it. I mean, I was privileged to be able to do the sound for it, so I was at most of the practices, and it was
He's just bragging on himself.
no.
Do you have
He
half
did the
back
sound,
or-
everybody.
Yeah, but I didn't do it up here on the live stream. I've heard, it
I'm
sounds great on there, and
teasing.
that
I'm
wasn't me.
teasing.
No, I was just saying it was great to be able to be there for the practices and see all the kids preaching it. And I mean, even from the first couple practices when they're preaching and singing, there was an anointing there, and
Sure.
it was hard for me sometimes not to get choked up. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
these are just little kids, but they're they were preaching it. It's
Such
awesome.
anointing and
Yeah.
such little bodies. But
yeah, you really get a feel, and that's one of the comments I got a lot yesterday. Was it was a really pretty evangelistic message throughout the play, between the songs, talking about coming home, your prodigals coming home will meet you, talking about who Jesus is, who Emmanuel is. He's with us, throughout your problems. And so throughout, it was a pretty evangelistic play, and that's what we heard a lot of comments of. Was it was powerful. You really felt the Holy Ghost. And I think a lot of times you think about kids stuff, it's all fun and clowns and games and so forth, but really these kids, Apostolic Center does a really good job of promoting. We have fun and all those things, but we really try to make sure that Jesus is the center of it all, and we promote that ministry from a very early age. And I felt like you really felt that yesterday with our kids. They really did a fantastic job with bringing that anointing, bringing that spiritual level with the jokes and the fun and the good songs. But I thought they did a really good job in that area specifically yesterday as well.
Yeah, I agree. Is that something that you make a point to go over during practice?
Yeah. Every practice, we begin and end with prayer, and we make sure that that's the focus. And the thing about it for me, whenever I'm dealing with kids, is there's a lot of explanation. And I feel like that really helps the kids. It's not just, hey, we pray, okay, let's start, but it's Why do we pray? Well, this is why we want to be anointed. We want to be able to be used in the kingdom. We want to, this is our service, and our kids' service is the same way. This is our service. What do we want out of it? We want to see healings. We want to see people get the Holy Ghost. So, we try to explain it, and then we implement it. And so, yeah, it gets pushed in practices, whenever we're doing the last scene where the kids are literally, they're supposed to be preachers. We'll stop them. We say, hey, you're just standing there, does Pastor Shine preach like that? No, he's got inflection in his voice. He moves around. And we do that same thing with the kids, when they're singing, be passionate about it. Don't just stand there and just
Monotone.
sing monotone. Yeah. But, put passion in it, put anointing in it, put feeling in it, and not to just try to stir up emotions, but it's a part of training and teaching them, how to move and flow with the Holy Ghost is what we try to do, even in our practices.
That ministry from a very early age, letting them realize that it is important and what they do and say has an impact in every aspect of their lives.
Yeah, I think they're especially like so far forward because, those things about, the voice inflections and all that stuff is stuff that, has to be said in our youth dramas to the people helping out with that. And even I'm sure coming up with the Easter drama, it's all stuff that everybody has to be reminded of. But just the fact that the kids are able to take that and apply it and use it. And it's like, man, they are, even at such a young age, they are really, really good at acting and getting the point across and not just saying it monotonously. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think it's somewhat overlooked that we do it from such a young age, but being in front of people, public speaking is hard to do if you don't do it. Yeah. And we start at the baby parade at 2 years old, or it's infants too.
Yeah,
people.
It's infants.
So we started at such a young age, which, I told one of my bosses, oh, yeah, I've preached before, because he's like, oh, can you talk in front of a crowd? I said, yeah, I've done it before, like 300-400 people. Yeah. I said, I can do it. He's like, what, really? Because I'm pretty quiet at work. But I don't think people realize, what their kids are getting. Even, how it translates over to your workplace, be able to present something.
For sure.
Like, it's such a big
it's a
help
life skill.
outside of spiritual things,
Right.
but it is a life skill.
Well, I think that goes beyond just the pulpit ministries too, which I know that's encompasses that. But the other thing is just having that relationship. I mean, being able to make eye contact and to be able to get your point across, and, rather than just being the shy kid in the corner, which it's okay to be shy, but there is a point in time where you just have to communicate. And so being able to learn how to communicate and how to, all that stuff can be implemented in that spiritual realm and, in front of people, and it just kind of boils over into everything that they do, from school to the job to, even just dealing with family.
Right.
I mean, I was the shy kid in the corner and I had to be kind of stretched, to not be afraid of putting myself in those kinds of opportunities as well. And I think, this is one aspect of ministry, and the kids who do have a strength in it already naturally, that's great. Then we can stretch them even that more. But I know we also try to let them realize that there's other ministries too that aren't the type that you have to be in front of people or so many people, and this is one aspect of a type of ministry that you can have. You can be on a stage and do play and do acting and singing, but you also can do it in a smaller setting in our Mac Live. In a smaller group, you can, we can have little smaller prayer circles, and you can help your friends pray in that way. It's not just one aspect of, yes, we need to stretch kids in that way too, but I think we also try to drive ministry in other forms too, so that they're exposed to a lot of different things, like our music nights that we had. That's not something you necessarily have to stand in front of people and do, but you can play a guitar in church and be really great at that and that. Well.
How long did the play take to develop? Like, you start practicing a month out or 2 months out?
So our goal is we do our trunk or treat in October, and our goal is to have the scripts out to the kids, the trunk or treat, or that week. And a accomplish that this year. So really we start planning it about a month in advance of that, and even some before, but we really start putting pen to paper, starting to line up people in positions, adults. And then once the end of October comes around, we give out scripts. We give it a couple weeks, but we start basically then that Sunday starting to learn songs.
Okay.
And we do that basically throughout November and the beginning of December. We have Sunday afternoon practices where we
feed the kids pizza and all that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's immediately following service, and we go over songs, and we do those types of things. This year we did basically the last week leading up to it. We did just actual like rehearsals
on the stage rehearsal.
The week
not
leading up.
necessarily like dress rehearsal, like they're wearing their outfits and costumes, but like positioning on staging where you're walking in and out from, practicing coming out, going back in, all those kinds of aspects too.
But even then, I mean, from being in some of the practices, I know we kind of gave the kids, the week off. Even like at the beginning of the week, we canceled a practice or two. And I remember you guys saying, the kids are at such a good spot. We're really happy with how they've been doing. So we were able to do that. And
I think that's testament to the parents that are working home with them.
Absolutely.
I'm so proud to have a church like we do that has the buy-in from the parents that will do things like that, to where we can say, hey, we're not going to have practice on Monday, and the kids are still going to blow it out of the water when Sunday comes around because they're already at such a good point. And we're still a week away almost at that point. So yeah, I think that's definitely props to the parents.
Yeah, we've got a great support system with our kids, parents, grandparents, siblings even, and they help make sure they know their lines. We even have some tattletales, where they're like, hey, hey, Brother John, my brother doesn't know their lines. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll talk to your parents about it, and, it's sweet.
Keeping each
but
other accountable.
Yeah. But they have a great support system at Apostolic Center with their families. And so we don't have to worry about that. And we know that they're going to be there on Tuesday. We cancel practice on Monday. We know they're going to be there Tuesday. And it takes pressure off of our shoulders in some of those areas.
You remember doing any when you were younger? I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
Think back to doing some. Only thing that came to my mind was, I remember one year I didn't learn my lines till like the weekend of, and it was very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
I was together somehow.
I was a major procrastinator, but even from an early age, I loved performing, singing, acting. It's still to this day one of my favorite things to do. And but yeah, I remember a couple of them. I don't remember the general plays. I don't remember lines either.
Yeah.
But like I remember I was an old man for one play. I was a king for one play. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of what I remember.
Remember that one time you came back from overseas?
Yes.
For youth drama, and you and Brother Matt had words.
Yes,
I remember how he didn't know any of his lines. Yeah,
that was a youth drama. I wasn't a kid at that point. I was an adult.
How old were we
at
that point?
I was.
That was the last play.
It was for Brother Nixon's graduation. So I was in my 20s.
I wasn't. So yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
I got married at 22.
I was in my early 20s.
Wasn't that the last play?
I don't remember which one it was. But we went on a trip to Israel.
Was it Israel or Jordan? Did you go with Brother Rick?
I went to Jordan with Brother Rick, but that was in the fall.
Okay.
So, but we did a spring trip and went to Israel, and I came back. I didn't know any of my lines.
And this was just a practice with me, John, and Brother Matt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
very awkward.
It wasn't a good night for me. I'm not proud of that. But luckily, me and Brother Matt have made amends, and
that was funny.
And he made a comment. This is probably a year ago, after one of the children's musicals, and he said, now, do you know why I was so upset about you not knowing your lines? And I said, yes, I understand now.
We get it
why.
now. We
I
got
get
it.
it. I
So
get
he,
it.
he
Okay.
held on to that for the right time.
Oh yeah,
Just
yeah.
to-
He'd been waiting
Years.
12 years to get me on it.
That was so funny. Yeah, it was always nerve wracking. Like when you did those long paragraphs. Like, oh
Mhm.
my Lord, am I gonna forget something?
Yeah, it's nerve wracking. Of course, I still get nervous if I'm going to sing or anything like that, but it's truly a joy, whenever you're done and you non-spiritual side, just a fun. When people when they laugh or clap
Mhm.
or cheer, I mean, that to me is truly a joy. I really,
The worst is when people laugh at like when the lights stay on when you're supposed to go off stage and
yeah, that was not
you're
funny.
trying to
Oh,
walk off.
Or you
Yes.
mean like the time whenever you're supposed to be on the cross and the lights stayed on? And it
That was
turned off
not
and
my
you started
fault.
walking off.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, for those that
Yeah,
don't
well, the
know-
worst part is everyone laughs. You're not supposed to be laughing. Everyone's
Well, it was like super serious too. You were like Jesus at the cross, and then you like the light goes off, you walk, and it turns back on, and you freeze.
For
I'm
those
so
that don't
embarrassed.
know, the story is that Cordero was supposed to be Jesus for a promotional skit we were doing.
last minute.
It was a last minute deal, and Cordero was supposed to be Jesus on the cross, and we had the cross set up, and the lights turn on, and Jesus is not on the cross. He's still walking
So
across
it's
the
like
stage.
spotlight, blackout, spotlight. But every time the spotlight would come back on, it was not when you were in position yet.
Yes, yeah.
No. The thing is, I was in position. I did everything right. Okay, everybody.
You did.
It
You
was
could
the
tell it was a
lighting's
lighting
fault.
thing.
Yeah.
I was so embarrassed, dude.
You hear that, Derek Eby? It's all your fault.
Derek,
Poor Derek.
I've not forgotten.
We love you, Derek.
That's
That
the
was-
worst.
Yeah, the things that don't go right, those are.
But usually when we have big productions, I never like when we did it that night.
The only thing that happened to me similarly was during a big performance when I was one of the two spies at Rahab's house. And of course you climb out the window with the rope, and the rope came untied and fell out the window with I was outside
Mm-hmm.
and the other spy was still inside and he hadn't made it out yet. So
I
people
remember
laughed.
that.
People laughed, and I yelled out, acted like I fell, and I don't remember what Jake did, but we continued with the play. And
Yeah, well, whenever Cameron and I were the spies for that a couple of years ago, Cameron I think he did it on purpose, but he fell out the window, just like
Yes.
straight up just fell back.
Yeah.
And that was, I think he did it during a performance, and it took so much from me to not just start laughing. I think that might have been the same night that I walked out and I still had my glasses on, and I realized, so I like took them and I like threw them back behind the door. Thank goodness,
Classic.
not very many people noticed,
Classic.
but
He took the people out of Israel.
I,
Okay?
I still
Yes.
think the best John Vincent performance though is Methuselah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was a good one.
That's one of my favors.
I love that part.
I love
was
it so
fun.
much.
I love playing an old man.
You are an
A
old man.
grouchy,
Really, you are an old
a
man.
grouchy old
Yeah.
man.
Fits
Who
you
did you
well.
learn that from?
Well, I had a lot of experience living
Is there anybody in your life
living
that,
with my father, another grouchy old man.
Oh, Vince. Now, I know Abby helped. Was there any other people who helped, like had main parts in helping?
Oh yeah, there's so many people.
It's
Make it
truly a
possible.
team effort.
Yeah.
And I feel bad sometimes because being the children's pastors, I feel like we get too much credit. And I say that in all honesty. Sister Abby does. She directs it. She is
writes
the
it,
main
She does the music
person.
for it. Yeah.
But then we've been able to kind of build a fantastic team.
Mhm.
Eustace, I mean, we were teasing him, but he takes care of the sound. You know, basically we communicate, hey, this is what we need. This is how many mics, does this going to work? Is it not going to work?
It's just a lot of logistics and so much to go through.
And so, he takes care of that. We've got Derek Eby who does all the lights. We say, this is what we want. He implements it. We've got people backstage. Kelsey Boffman, she heads that up and is very strict with the kids.
Gets
and
them where they need to
gets
be.
them
You
where they
gotta
need
be.
to be
Mhm.
and keeps them quiet. And she's got her whole team. Tell and Lexi were big helps back there. We've got the people that are on the stage helping the kids, you know, cueing them, getting them on and off. It was like Tiffany, Medrick,
Zealand,
Parrish, Zealand, Anna
Anna
Kate
Kate,
Coffee.
yeah.
You know, that whole team. We had Liz Center was a big help this year. She kind of, you know, she kind of helped oversee a lot of things because she's directed this whole performance before. So
Yeah.
So she had her hands in a lot of different areas.
so she in a way helped kind of co-direct. I mean, she did a lot of those.
Jameson's part was really fun.
Yeah, was she the one that got Jameson to do that? Because he did not do that during any of the
Yes.
practices.
Yeah, no, he
I think
definitely
he had to be convinced to be a
Yeah.
part of the girly scene.
Yeah,
but
true.
No, he did great. It was sweet.
yeah, he definitely was. That was a real grunt at the very beginning, knowing that he was just the only Ken out of there with a bunch of Barbies. But you know, so there's all different teams. And then we've just got, you know, for little kids.
If the 2s and 3s have their performance too, Sister Emma helped us with that.
Right.
Put that together.
So
Leo's still saying, God is with me.
yeah,
Which, while we're on it, how many? Because I know we talked about how many were in the children's musical, but how many were in the 2s and 3s and in the baby parade? Because I know Brother Dowdy mentioned tonight. He mentioned tonight at prayer. He was saying that we've got like a whole choir there between the baby parade and the
Yes.
2s and 3s.
Yeah.
The
There's
2s
so
and 3s, we had about
many.
18 that were on the list. A couple couldn't make it because of sickness and stuff, but yeah,
It's like
there's a
60
good group of them.
altogether.
Yeah.
well, and then
60, 70.
yeah, so then the babies, I don't have an exact number on the babies. Of course, we've had babies and they haven't, you know, they're literally coming out of the hospital and they're you know, so we still have several more that are coming.
Mhm.
So we've got a whole lot of babies. That's our next project, is figuring out what we're gonna do with them.
There's-
Yeah. Are you
There's
guys
so many
The
kids.
nursery, we got it. Yeah, we
are you
gotta
guys the
expand
babies
nursery.
pastor too?
Yes,
Is that
yes,
included?
We are
Yes.
partial babies pastors.
Yeah.
Okay.
From nursery all the way up into 5th grade.
Yeah, we do nursery to 5th grade. So basically from infants to that goes to about 11 years old, and of course they join the youth.
Is that room getting too small? 2s and
Yes.
3s?
Yeah. So part of the problem is, which you would know just from having kids this age, but there's such a difference in
Development
Salem
from
and
yeah.
Louis. You know that
A sweet kid and a tyrant.
No.
basically.
yes, but you know you've got kids that are walking, kids that you know are, you know, can get their cereal and you know
Yeah.
and play and can play aggressive. They're kind of running, you know, all these other things, and then kids that literally they just need held.
Mhm.
They have to be held or in a certain swing, you know, so that it gets kind of difficult in managing that area. And we've tried a few different things. Right now we've got a gate that goes in between, and we're able to kind of have staff both sides.
Keep the walking ones away
Mhm.
from the ones who can't walk yet. You know, things like
The ones who can't, climb in the swing. and-
Yes.
Yes.
Keep the ones that
Stand on
want to
top of
climb in the
them.
swings and,
yeah.
and help us feed the babies. You know,
Mhm.
we try to keep them.
Put the passies back in their mouth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're very helpful.
Yeah, you know how that goes.
Very helpful.
Shoves it in their nose.
Yeah. Or puts it in their own mouth and
Yep.
tries to give it back to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. Now, how long have you guys been not youth pastors, but children's pastors here at Apostolic Center?
I believe it was November of 2020.
20.
Because
So 2
then the
years.
pandemic
Yeah,
happened.
2 years.
So, yes.
So
Yeah.
just over 2 years.
What was that transition like? It's a pretty big role.
Yeah, it was very difficult, but it was very easy. And I say that because it was difficult because it's a whole different role. You know, it was new to both of us. You know, we've been involved in ministry, but still stepping into this kind of role it's a big deal, and we
Mhm.
took it very serious.
Yeah.
But I say it's easy because we were able to do it very seamlessly because we had great leadership. Brother Corey, Sister Charity helped us. Pastor Shine, Sister Lisa helped us. They basically, for lack of better terms, I mean, they held our hand through some things, gave us leeway, you know, to make our own decisions in certain things. But then also if we had any questions, they would come and say, they help us try to find the answers or try to work through tough situations. But
Well,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what was that like? Since you guys were kind of in essence like carving out this new ministry, because I don't think we ever had like a children's pastor. Now, of course, we had people over it, but you guys were
Yeah, what
you
was
guys were
Brother
kind of the first,
Bruce's
right?
So
title?
so Brother Bruce was the Sunday school superintendent.
Yeah, superintendent.
So he did a lot of things on Sunday. He took care of a lot of promotions, just your day-to-day Sunday school needs, from anything from snack to curriculum. He took care of all of that stuff, which he then stopped doing that a couple years ago. So there was kind of a transition time, and that kind of fell under Brother Corey's Sister Charity's umbrella of ministry, and so it kind of was in their hands. There was also Brother Tommy and Sister Judy Toll. They took care of the Mac Lives, which are our children's services, and they did those. They helped organize those and man those and run those. So there was a few different heads. So you're right, there wasn't necessarily a children's pastor. And once we became that, those kind of all fell under our umbrella of ministry. Wednesday night classes, Sunday morning classes, Sunday night services, off night things, musicals, all the things that pretty much pertain to children's kind of then now fall under that umbrella, under which we're still obviously under Brother Corey's Sister Charity and Pastor Shine, Sister Lisa. But the day-to-day stuff, we try to take care of that.
So to say, all that is then to say we had a lot that, yes, we're carving out something new in the fact of we have it being called the ministry of being children's pastors, but there was so much groundwork that was laid for us by so many people who came before us, who set a precedent and, got things going to where it is today. And we're so thankful for the support that we've had to get to this point. I mean, we can't take the credit for what it is fully, because there's been so much that's been done to lay the foundation.
What were some new things you guys wanted to do when you started, or did it take a little bit to get those ideas?
So, one of the big things, whenever we took over, one of the pastor's visions, probably one of the biggest undertakings that we did was changing virtually how we did Sunday school as a whole. And so pastor's vision is for Wednesday night to be the education ministry, Sunday morning to be evangelistic, and Sunday night is for the church. And when we did that, the general thinking of Sunday school, this is how we do Sunday school in all our classes and so forth. We're going to move that to Wednesday night, where we have classes. We break out into classes. The teachers teach about God and go through all the lessons and all that. That's going to be now from Sunday morning to Wednesday. And Sunday morning is going to be our children's services. And that's what we do every week, is have our children's service where we have preaching. We do songs. It's just like big church. We do preaching, songs, prayer time, altar service. And of course we make it fun as well. Obviously it's kid friendly, but that's our kid service. And on Wednesday night is education, where we teach them the Bible stories of Moses and David and all those things. So that was the big implementation when we first started. We transitioned into that. It was kind of a good time to do it. We were coming out of COVID, where we hadn't been having classes. And so we just said this was the time. And so that's where we kind of made that big transition. And so we implemented that. There's been several things throughout that we have implemented, and
like I would say probably our MAC nights that we've done, where we've had a specific focus in different areas, is probably one of the biggest things that we've done, because those are off night type things, very similar to how our youth group does that. We wanted to have more of a point of contact with the kids throughout the month, not just those times where they're in here for service. But then also have an off night event where they can all come together, invite friends. Sometimes those environments are a little bit easier to bring people than a Sunday school classroom kind of environment. So outside of having like our big events, like our kids camps and our musicals where they can invite teachers and things like that, it's nice to kind of have the MAC nights where we have like a focus of like art or music, or we just have all the blow-ups that we own as a church in the gym, and they just go haywire
they
and
love that.
crazy. And I think those have been really successful and a really great part of kind of how we've built Mac to be.
You do that
yeah.
once a month?
We try to.
It's
yes.
not every month, but yeah,
Okay.
it's basically once a month. There's
Regular.
there's a few things that we do. So we did music nights,
Mhm.
and it was for a month long,
Yes.
and we did those after every Monday night prayer
That was in the
for the month.
summertime.
Mm-hmm.
And so those, those were more often, obviously. And then there's some month, December, we don't have anything because we just got done with the big
Yeah.
performance. We're kind of giving
Yeah.
parents a break from bringing their kids back and forth. And
So it kind of depends on the month because, like, when we have Easter, we make a big push for that. So we don't necessarily have one that, things like that. But
Right.
where we have a little bit more dead space in the calendar, we kind of try those in there to kind of have another event for the kids.
just to add that
to.
extra point of contact.
For sure.
And not just for the kids, but for the
Mhm.
parents too, whether
Yeah.
that's giving them a night off
Mm-hmm.
or, just making sure that because we've been doing some family event
Mhm.
style nights. And so even that, just connecting our families together.
Yeah.
And
I think we started off with a focus of having the event nights for the kids. And then here recently, near towards the end of the year, that was kind of a gap that we kind of realized when we were discussing with our teams. Like, we really need to pull in some families too. And so we had an event where they went to Douglas Hart and a whole family unit could go together. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to go drop off my kids and go away, but I'm going to be there with my kid and I'm going to be with them as they go throughout, collecting their stamps through each station and
Mm-hmm.
kind of having that family involvement too. Then the families can interact with each other as well, and parents can make that contact because you need that support as well when you're a parent too.
we have great people at Apostolic Center. We have great parents, and I can't say that enough. And so why wouldn't we want, if we have a guest, or if somebody brings a guest and they come and they bring their kid, why wouldn't I want the Cavazos to make that connection with this new family? Why? So that's what we realized, that instead of it just being us or our team, why not connect the families together with the children and just give them another opportunity outside of Sunday and Wednesday in a more relaxed setting
Mhm.
to make that connection with each other and try to build a relationship and hopefully build a God relationship with them.
I keep saying you have a team. Is that like a set team, or is that the teachers? And
It's-
how did you build that team?
So it's a little fluid.
We're still in the process of building it too, to some
Okay.
extent. So
One of the most
Yeah.
difficult
Come on,
things,
guys! It's been 2 years.
Yeah.
What are you guys
Yeah.
doing?
one of the most difficult things I have to do is try to make sure I build a team.
Mhm.
I'm terrible at it.
Mhm.
But truth of the matter is, there's people that are better at a lot of things than I am. And so that's perfect example, children's musical. Sister Abby does a fantastic job. Why would I try to
Yeah.
grab hold of that? But so our team kind of is fluid for different things. We've got our Wednesday night and Sunday morning superintendents,
Mhm.
and they're over each classroom. There's one teacher that's the superintendent in every classroom, and they're kind of our heads of those departments, those classrooms. And so that is kind of one team. It's pretty solid. I mean, it's consistent. When I
Mhm.
mean solid, it's consistent. And then we've got a few individuals that help us with our off night things. And like I said, it fluctuates a little bit, kind of depending on the event. For music nights, obviously we bring in Sister Marcia, and she helps us with that because she does music. So, but there's a handful of people that are consistently there. They help us make sure that we've got staffing, help us make sure we've got snacks, help us make sure that this date works on the calendar. And so we are working on building that team, and there's 4 individuals on that team that we plan those off night things with throughout the year.
We had to realize, as we started this endeavor of being children's pastors, is that there is a huge wide umbrella, like we've talked about, the umbrella of all the things that this covers, and very easily things have fallen through the cracks when it's just us two trying to do it.
Mhm.
And you have to learn how to delegate and build your team up, and how to train other people to grow in those areas as well. We want people to be successful in it, not just us. And we have to have that support. Because if not, there's so many things where like, oh my gosh, we didn't accomplish this because we didn't have a team to help us, and we were trying to put it all on our own backs.
What's your guys' kind of dynamic in terms of working together, your styles, or I know John's really organized.
Yes,
on top
I
of
am
things.
so organized.
Mhm.
Our working together is great, and it's also chaotic because we are so different.
So different.
And
Yeah.
I am out front. I want the kids to have fun. But I am not organized. People come up and say, "Hey, did you get the snack?" And I go, no, I forgot." That's not me. But I do a lot of the, not kind of the creative ideas. I come up with a lot of those. I feel like I help implement those.
Mhm.
And then just hey, we've got to get this done by next Saturday. That kind of is where I come in and
Yeah.
I make sure it gets done.
Short term and getting things done in crunch time, he's the best at that. I think I sometimes can help with like the bigger picture and the longer run things.
Mhm.
And I think, yes, it's difficult sometimes because we are so different, but I think in a way it's really great because we can help each other fill in the gaps where the other has a weakness. And it's something that we still
Yeah, I was gonna
have
say,
to
is that something that
continue
was
to-
natural or
no, and we're still working on it. But I think the more and more we practice at it, hopefully the better we'll keep getting. But I love working with him, but it does stretch you as a person when you are working with someone who is different from you. But I wouldn't want it any other way because I don't think we could accomplish things like we could if we weren't different in those aspects.
Yeah.
Because he pushes me, like, for example, I was too scared because not every single element was planned out
Mhm.
and all the boxes in my list wasn't ticked off yet. We can't have this camp. It's too close to the date. It's not going to come together. And that's me as a planner. And I was too closed up on it. Like,
Mhm.
it's just not possible. And he's like, no, we can make it happen. It's going to happen. And that's when we had our very first Camp Mac, was because he pushed it through. If it was up to me, it probably would have not happened. But it was such a successful camp. And
Mhm.
my God, I'm so glad we had it. What an impact it had on our kids. So sometimes you just have to realize that as a person, like, you got to have people around you who are going to stretch you and push you to do things in ministry. Because otherwise it's your natural human tendencies to be like, at least for me personally, no, we can't. I can be negative Nancy sometimes and give the reasons why not,
Mhm.
instead of thinking of the good reasons why you should.
Well, it's not all negative, but she does a lot of the planning. I think
Yeah.
one of the things that she does really well, I said, I think I see big picture, and I think sometimes I can, to a fault, I get this way with, kids ministry with services and things where I'm making sure all the kids are entertained. I think one thing, she does is she starts kind of going individually, and, where this kid is obviously upset. I'm trying to deal with the 25. She can go and minister to the one that's in need. And I think that's kind of how I've viewed our ministry as, I can help do some of the big picture, and she comes in and is very specific in how she handles things, and she can come in and use wisdom and, make sure that everything is in order. And I think I do. I love working together with you, but it is. We've
He's
had
not
to
just
work
saying
on
that because we're on a podcast,
Nope.
everybody. He really
Nope.
means it.
really mean it. But we've had to work on it just
Yeah.
because we are so different.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. It does have its difficulties, but that's ministry and marriage.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now, Camp Mac, that took place at VBS, right?
Yes. So instead of
And how'd
doing
that come about?
so
We discussed possibly keeping both. And then over time, just kind of the feedback that we got from parents, we thought that a day camp would kind of fill in the need a little bit better than the
You know,
evening
explain
slot.
what we used to do for
Yeah,
VBS.
so VBS was usually right before school started up. Would kind of be the slot where it kind of would fall in right at the end of summer. And it usually would be an evening slot, so they would bring in their kids. I'm not sure how late in the evening, but for a couple hours
Yeah,
in
it's like
the
5 or
evening.
6. I used to help.
Yeah. And they would break out into different age groups, and then by the end, then they would come together for like a little service at the end. And so just, with the feedback from the parents, we realized that, maybe if we had it a little bit closer to the beginning of summer, not right before school, would kind of do better for the parents instead of just right before back to school stuff starts up. And then having it kind of during the day was, I think, we ourselves thought that was a great idea too.
It's kind of we have this big life center
we
with
have
a
the life
commercial
center now.
kitchen. I
Mhm.
mean, why wouldn't we take advantage of it and
Yeah.
use it?
Mhm.
And so that's how we kind of came about it. It was Pastor Shine kind of talked about it. Hey, I want to do stuff here during the day,
Mhm.
To get people used to coming here during the day, bringing their kids during the day for future things. And so that's kind of how we implemented it. We don't have them stay overnight. It's just from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Mhm.
And we have a whole team. It's from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then this past year, we then included Sunday morning to try to, those that guess, to try to get them to come
Back again on Sunday.
and come be a part of an actual church service. And so that's kind of how it started.
Mhm.
We kind of took what was already established with VBS, modified it some.
Mhm.
She had some camp experience from when she was in Singapore and
Mhm.
things that they used to do. And so we took her knowledge and what they used to do and what we do and used to do, and we just kind of morphed it into what it is. And we've done it 2 years now, and it's been a big success. It's probably our second biggest or our biggest thing next to the Christmas musical that we do with our children.
How many kids you have come the first and second year? I know you guys had a big uptick.
So the
Mhm.
first year we had 52 kids, or 54, one or the other was our biggest day. And this year we had 82 kids was our
Awesome.
biggest day.
Wow.
So it was a big jump, and we're really excited. Actually, next year our goal is to get 100 kids there.
Yeah.
And
There's a big difference between 50 to 80.
yes,
Oh, I'm
So
sure.
there was some learning between that, but our
It's a big
team,
difference from 1 to 3. I
Yeah.
mean,
yeah.
our team
Yeah.
pulled it together, and it was amazing, and I'm so proud, and it was great.
Yeah, we had to do some adjusting on the fly,
Yeah.
and because
Buy more snacks. Quick, go run to Walmart.
Yeah,
We need
thank
more.
God Walmart's right down
Yeah.
the street.
we had, because what we do is throughout the day we split them up into different teams, and we've got team leaders, and then they do activities, and they kind of move through session and group to group throughout the day. And well, during those split sessions, we have games or activities or lessons set up for 10 kids. Well, now you've got 15 kids in a room, so we had to do some
Yeah.
adjusting. And our team, once again, they do fantastic, and were able to work with us, and we modified and made adjustments.
How
And
many?
for our camp, we use a lot of like youth age to help us, so we have, of course, different people filling in different events. Like, for our off nights, sometimes we use a lot more of like the young marrieds and the parents themselves. And then like for our Camp Mac, because it's summer, you guys are out of school, so we have a lot of them use them in that way, and I think that's been really
And
great.
it's during the day, so
Yeah.
a lot of the adults have
Are
to work.
working.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna ask. Like, who all helps? How many people do you guys usually need to help with Camp Mac?
There's probably around 20 people that
Yeah.
have,
Wow.
because we've got kitchen staff, you've got the people
Like,
working
yeah.
with the kids, maybe not 20, probably around 15 there daily.
Yeah. We
Um,
have like music, worship, then you have people who are actually like, because we split the kids up into mixed age groups, and so then we have people who follow them because they are moving throughout the building, and then you have the people who are actually heads of the stations. Then you have people who are like on Friday filling up water balloons and trying to get the water fight ready. I'm trying to think what else. People like in the front checking kids in and out.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of
there's-
hands.
and
There's,
then-
there's probably 15 to 20 people all together.
And then I'm sure, because I remember you guys set up like a set, you decorated really
Mhm.
nice. So I'm sure there were people that helped out
Oh,
with
yeah.
that
Mhm.
maybe
Yeah.
couldn't make it to the actual camp.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's a lot. That's kind of where the adults and parents kind of step in. They help to prepare. They help. Hey, do you need things to help prepare for food? And that's kind of where they start stepping in, is that decorating, food prep, that lead up into even just sending out invitations. They help design the postcards, and that's kind of where the adults kind of step in. There's a lot of hands that help put that together.
So you mean the kids don't design the postcards?
No.
The adults
No.
do.
Yeah,
Okay.
no,
No, not like the youth groups.
the
no,
kids
no.
nor me. I do not do it either. So
Have you guys seen like a huge growth from what VBS was to like the camps, like in terms of like numbers of people of kids coming, or is that just
you
roughly
know,
the same as the first year of camp?
I've helped in the VBSs, but I don't know that I could really tell you how many they had.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know if I
Um,
know the numbers from it.
Sure.
And so
Per
yeah,
se.
so I couldn't really tell you a good estimate of what what those numbers
Sure.
per se look like.
Yeah, just curious.
Yeah, what about percentage from church kids to guest? Off the top of your head, just if you had to guess. 80%
We had a
to
lot of
20%,
guests this last
or
year,
So it was
this year.
I did the numbers.
He's a numbers guy.
Uh-oh.
I'll
Come
leave
on.
it to him.
Well, it's been a while since I did them.
Yeah, that
well,
was July
We had
or June. not
basically
July.
we had 50 to 60 of our kids, and the surplus to 80 was guests.
awesome.
That's awesome.
That's really our kids' numbers stayed about the same. The
Mhm.
first year we just had all of our kids.
Mhm.
The second year we had all of our kids
and a lot of guests.
plus
Mhm.
that bonus of 20 kids. It was guests. It wasn't just, hey, I didn't show up last year, I came this year. No, it was guests that they don't normally come. Just parents invited, kids invited, and really we didn't hardly do a lot of promoting on our end. It was,
Yeah, we
hey,
did
my cousin, my neighbor,
Facebook and the little printout postcards, but I mean, we didn't do like door-to-door knocking or anything like that. I
Mhm.
mean, it was our core church people reaching out to people
Mhm.
that they know.
and we ran a van route this year, and we've got a good size amount of kids just that ride on the van, and so that added to that number.
Mhm.
And we were able to bring them, and so there's a lot of things that we did a little different, but yeah, there was just a lot of guests. So
What changes are you anticipating for, this coming June, since you guys want you want 100 people?
yeah, I'm believing God will give the increase. One thing is now that we've done it for 2 years, we kind of know.
We fine-tuned some things and even done things some different this year than we did last year. And we even with our team that we had like a debriefing like after the fact of after the camp's over.
Mhm.
What did we do good? What was not good? What do we need to keep for the next year? And I think in order to reach that growth of 100 that you're trying to reach for, we talked about even working even more months ahead than we prior have been, just to try to get that build up.
Yeah, to me, so UPCI has some curriculum,
Mhm,
some
yes.
VBS curriculum, and the first year I did the curriculum. I came up with the things. We came up with the ideas, and then we implemented them. Last year, we used some of the materials that UPCI has, and what we're going to do next year is continue to use things that we have. So then that frees
Mhm.
some of us up to, let's do outreach. Let's go, and how can we promote this? How can we? So instead of trying to come up with the graphics, come up with the theme, come up with the material, come up with the lesson snacks. We don't have to do some of that. So now let's focus on getting kids there. Let's focus on getting them spiritual. Let's focus on things that we can do better. And so that's going to be kind of the changes that we've been able to establish. Kind of, this is what the day looks like. That's set. Now let's build it. And that's kind of the few changes that we're going to implement next year.
We kind of talked about this in the first recording that got corrupted, Patrick.
Hey, my bad.
Oh yeah, if you don't know, we've done this entire conversation already. a
It's
couple
pretty
months
different
ago.
though. It's
Yeah,
pretty.
Yeah.
it is. It's
yeah.
actually it
Yes.
totally is.
I'm actually enjoying it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was kind of a God thing. The last one corrupted. No. But go ahead.
Yeah. We talked last time about building a culture. You know, what are some things you guys have wanted to put at the forefront spiritually with the kids?
Well, we have a great culture at Apostolic Center, and so it was easy for us to help build a culture with the children. And one of the things is getting them to realize that they can be involved in ministry. And something we've started to implement with the past few months, children's musical, that's kind of taken some roles in some of this. But for our kids services, we want to have more kids preaching. We want to have more kids leading the prayer. We want to have more kids even running the game. Just letting their hands be part of the ministry as a whole. And I think a lot of times it's, oh, the kids can't do that. But we talked about it earlier. I mean, there's powerful. They're powerful when they sing. They're powerful when they pray for each other. That's one of the things that they do fantastic is they pray for each other. And, you know, once one gets the Holy Ghost, they want their buddy that next to them, they want them to get the Holy Ghost, and they want to pray for them. And so really it's building that and making that where they're confident in their ministry. They're confident in praying. They're confident. Sister D's classroom, which is our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade classroom, they just printed off, and Harrison Spraker, he helped design another, basically a kid's prayer book. You know, it's implementing those things where that they don't have to wait till they're in the youth choir. They don't have to wait till they're 12, 15, 18, 21. They can be used in ministry now, and they can be powerfully used. And so that's something that we've tried to implement in our classrooms and in our Mac Live settings and just throughout, is that, hey, you can do it, and encourage them. That's something we've been trying to implement as a new culture and just grow that culture, I guess.
Yeah, Mikayla, if you want to add to that, you can. And the reason I'm asking the question is it's one thing just to come up with good programs and have fun with the kids and do all this other stuff, but it's another thing to invest spiritually into the kids. Do you have anything to add to what John said?
Yeah, I think, you know, our teachers do great too, realizing that it doesn't matter how young the kids are. You need to instill that culture within them from the start. I mean, our nursery, they're singing 111, one way to God in that classroom. And you might think sometimes people might put a label of babysitting on a type of classroom that has young babies and kids who are just newly walking, that you can instill within kids at that young age too, because their brains are sponges. They're going to soak it up, and you need to realize what you're saying and doing around them has an impact on them. And you know, if we start it from the nursery age, implementation of ministry, and you do have a purpose and you can be a part, then that gap starts to close, and they don't feel that jarring effect of when I get to the youth group, all of a sudden you expect something of me. You want me to go pray with people. You want me to go on choir tour and sing in front of everybody. You know, we want to have that gap closed in to where it's a seamless transition to when you do reach adulthood. You've been practicing at ministry for a long time, and it's not something new that's going to scare you. You're ready for it, and you're ready to achieve it.
What are some things that you guys have seen? What are some main problems that you're seeing with the kids in terms of, what the world's throwing at them, or spiritual attacks?
I feel like there's a lot of confusion, and they get a lot of information. Here's the deal: the kids are smart. I mean, I'm not. I tell parents all the time. I go up to them and I said, "Man, your kid is smart." Yeah, they did this and this, and it just impressed me. Kids are smart, and one thing that I've had to realize early on working with kids is if I'm not real, they'll see right through it. And regardless if I'm trying to be funny or trying to be serious, if I'm not real, they care less. And so when you start dealing with them in a spiritual arena, you see that these kids are picking up on confusion and dysfunction, and whether that's not just in the home, but at school, throughout their friends, what they're picking up from different friend groups, and so I feel like there's a lot of confusion out there. And I one thing we've been trying to also implement is one of the last things Moses talked to the children of Israel is, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord." And right after that, it talks about, he says, and teach this unto your children morning and evening, and how important that is, that the confusion can be alleviated if Hear, O Israel, there's one Lord. I mean, that's it. And so if we can kind of get through the clutter, get through all that other stuff, if we can kind of push away those distractions, all the information from even kids with cell phones and social media and all this other stuff that just gets thrown at them, and they're bombarded with this information, and some of it's good and some of it's bad. I mean, it's not all bad either, but it's just a lot. And if we can just kind of sift through that and sort through that and just say, "Hey, remember, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord," and you can kind of pinpoint that focus back. That's kind of how we've been dealing with some of in my opinion, one big area is that confusion, that distraction,
It's right on.
clutter, in a spiritual, mental, emotional sense.
Yeah. Knowing God's truth is the first thing.
Mhm.
And I think you're right on. I mean, every generation's like, "Oh, you should have seen it back in our day." You'd slap them right in the face. Shut up. But for real, I mean, today, we didn't face what our kids are facing today.
Absolutely.
No, being a new father, it's you view things differently, which you and I have talked about this. You view things differently, and so being the children's pastor, I got a glimpse of it, but now it's really realizing the importance of instilling these principles in your children. And it's teach this to their children morning and evening. We see them twice on Sunday, once on Wednesday, maybe another night a month. This is on the parents. If there's parents out there listening, I mean, it's on, you're the teachers more that, we will help fill in and fill the gaps and do what we can to the best of our abilities, the staff, but it's on the parents. And I commend all the parents that bring their children and to all the off night stuff every Sunday and Wednesday, and get their screaming kids up and get them dressed. But it's truly, it's so important in these last days. They've got to know truth. They've got to know the house of God. They've got to know what his presence is like, and where they can run to when they're adults. Train up a child, but when he is old, he will not depart. I mean, you're training him for the future. You've got to be able to do that.
It's funny how that mindset works. When you don't have kids, you think you know everything there is to know about raising them, and I know
do.
what it would feel. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
This
Let
guy
me
right
tell you
here.
what I would do.
But for real, and that goes for,
And-
kind of the stages of life, when you're single, you think you know everything there is to know about being married. Well, you get married, you don't know that much, if you're not intentionally trying to seek out knowledge
Mhm.
and working on stuff. And then it's just another step. When you have kids, it's like, oh, okay, so that's that's why they said don't do that.
Yeah.
That's why they were trying to teach me this.
They weren't dumb.
They weren't dumb.
It's like,
And
yeah,
I'm not the
I get-
smartest person in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. It gives you a new appreciation for parents, elders, my Sunday school teachers. We joked about it with me learning the lines. I mean, it gives you a new appreciation, and being in the role that we're in, I can't show enough appreciation to the parents at Apostolic Center.
And that's for kids who are listening, youth and stuff. You think you know it all. You think you got it all. I mean, at our age, I feel bad sometimes how I acted, when I was a teenager or in my young 20s, thinking better, or even just appreciating, what my father and mother went through working to put me through school, getting me all these nice things. You realize once you have your own job, you're paying your own bills. It wasn't easy to maybe buy that PlayStation 4,
Yeah.
And have screaming kids up till 3 a.m. and you have to work the next day in the summer. It's not stuff you think about when you're younger, but, the Bible says honor thy mother and father. And that's stuff we want to do throughout our lives. But, looking back, I wish I would have done better.
Which, and just continue part of this conversation, that's something we've talked about in our superintendent's meetings, and some of these other things that we want to implement is some character things too.
Mhm.
It means something, when you've got the kids that are apostolic, that they go to church and they show up at school and they've got good character.
Mhm.
They're kind, they're nice to people. They open the doors for people.
Yeah,
They
they're
say nice
honorable, They
words.
do their work. They're not, trying to get out of things, and they're kind to every face they see. It makes a difference, because sometimes that might be the first image or the cover that they see on the outside of the book before they get to know you truly as a person. But if they see the great character that our kids have, then they almost might think, oh, well, I'm seeing a trend. It's not just this kid, but it's that other kid too. And oh, they go to the same church. That makes sense. They believe the same truth. Not happenstance, it's because of what the things that are being instilled within them.
Well, Brother Dowdy, I think he's got a saying that you might be the only Bible that anybody ever sees, and so you've got to live that way. So we try to implement character traits into our, not just learning about David killing Goliath, but it's, hey, in the morning you make your bed, you clean your room.
We did a March Madness where we kind of had a whole focus for the whole month, where we did like a spirit week type stuff and the kids dressed up and things like that. And they were getting, they accumulated points from the beginning of the month to the end. And we gave them rewards for bringing a guest, knowing the Bible scripture or something like that. But we also gave them points for, did you help mom and dad by picking up your toys?
Mm-hmm.
And did you do your homework like you said you were going to? And we did it for different age groups. So of course, what the 2s and 3s did to help looked different
adjust it accordingly.
Looked different from the 3rd and 5th grade class. But
Did you cry less today?
Yeah.
yes. But they were rewarded for those, and they accumulated points in all different areas: character and how you lived your day-to-day life. That it also carries through, and that also shows God through the things that you do, not just I read my Bible today. Those are very important things, but they need to understand big picture. How you live day-to-day life is also just as crucial too.
And that's a good point. I mean, some people get caught up, oh, I'm so spiritual, and they're a jerk to everybody.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to be super spiritual to be nice to somebody and to be courteous and to have integrity, to open the door for someone, to help your parents. I don't care how spiritual you are.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a jerk to everybody and treat everyone
you're
bad,
no earthly good.
No.
Yeah.
That's it. There's a point where it's just life. You've got to be able to function in society and which I've always thought, Apostolic Center Youth has done a great job of being able to communicate, connect, but yeah, you've got to be able to have both sides,
Mhm.
Is it the thing that Brother Jeremy says about is it character and credibility? Is that the two things he talks about? You have to
Mhm.
have
credibility and influence.
influence. That's the other thing.
Credibility and influence. You have to have those two things, and I believe it. And if you don't have credibility, no one's going to respect you. No one's going to listen to your opinion, and you got to also have influence with people. And that's not, oh, I've got power over you, but that's, hey, I respect them enough to listen to. They've got valid points about this. Let me listen to them about truth. Let me listen to them about whatever it is. You've got to have influence with people, and like I said, not to have power over them or do what I say, but it's just a respect. You've got to be respectable. You've got to have influence. Right. Those are things in ministry, and to be a leader, you need.
And it starts with where you guys are starting it,
Yes.
with the kids,
100%.
Let me get your guys' thoughts on this. I kind of want a two-part question for both of you. Who were some of your mentors growing up, and what were some of your ministry philosophies, in your teens and early 20s?
I think both my parents had a crucial part of looking back of things and the mindsets that I have ministry-wise and what I do in church. I always look back and think of both my parents were missionaries, and they were willing to do and go wherever God led them. And it didn't matter that if the picture of what they thought it would be changed either, they were still willing to do it. Like, for example, they start off in Pakistan, and then they thought that they were going to be appointed to Thailand, and that's where the picture was for so long. And then it's like, nope, actually we're changing gears and we're going to Malaysia and Singapore. And throughout all those changes, they were still willing. And I feel like I've tried very hard to keep my mind open in that fact of, if things change for me and what I think it was going to be, and how, you might build the puzzle together, and then you're like, oh wait, actually these pieces are not at all what I think they are, and they're going to be forming a totally different image than I thought. Still being willing, and knowing that no matter what, it's God that's leading you, and that's where you're supposed to be and supposed to go. I think that's had a crucial part of my viewpoint of ministry for sure. And then when I moved here to Mattoon, Illinois, Pastor Shine, Sister Lisa, huge influence, and they've stretched me in ways of ministry that I don't think I would have been stretched if I hadn't have moved here. Doing things like the youth choir, being comfortable with giving my testimony, and if I didn't do those things, I might not be as open of a person as I am. Simple things like the youth drama, like we talked about, it grew me as a person to be willing and open, to not always do my default of no, I can't do that. But realizing, yeah, I should say yes, and I should push myself to grow. And yes, you have strengths, and there's things that you are great at naturally, but there's also things that you can grow in by saying yes and being willing to say yes, even if it's hard. And there's one thing, I think the last time when we did this, you asked me, was one thing that you said no to, or that you said yes to, but you wanted to say no to.
Yeah.
And I'm not a singer. I don't usually do praise singing, but I was asked to do praise singing at a TOR, and I'm like, what is going on? Why are you asking me? No, I can't. And I came up with all these reasons of why. I was babysitting, and I was taking care of the kids currently, and you want me to leave right now? No, I can't because of this, and I can't because of that. And Sister Lisa pushed me And she's like, no, you really need to do this. And so I did. And I'm so grateful that I did, because now I have that in the back of my mind. I almost said no that one time, and I said yes, and I'm so grateful I did, because it was such a great opportunity. And that helps me the next time when another opportunity comes around, to remind me in the back of my head, you almost said no last time and you really would have regretted it. You need to say yes and grow again in this other area. I think those are probably some of the things that I've really learned.
I feel like that yes mentality. I mean, we did talk about it last time,
Mhm.
and I'm really sad that that didn't get to go out, because
Sorry.
it was Patrick. Because it was like, at least for me, it was just such an enriching conversation, because I think it's so easy nowadays with the way that our society is and everything that you can do. I mean, there's so many things that you cannot say yes to everything. But I think you do need to be able to say, if it's about God, I'm going to say yes to this, and no matter what. And I think it's just it's a invaluable thing that, I'm grateful was instilled in me
Mhm.
from a young age, and
Yeah.
and that I don't know, I've loved hearing you guys talk about it.
Yeah. It's like, hey, would you lead prayer in the mic, for youth retreat? No, I'm not going to do that. Can't do that. But I did, and I feel like I've grown in my prayer life because of it, because it pushes you, because you realize everyone's hearing what I'm saying. I better know what I'm praying, and if I didn't
Well, you
have,
better be prayed up.
yes, yeah, and you better be prayed up. So
That's the deal.
it grows you. By you saying yes, it grows you.
Well, and I feel like too often nowadays people, I mean, the way the world is say no if you don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the default.
Personal empowerment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I feel like there's times for options and stuff, but
Yeah.
like you're talking about, the yes mentality is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and only doing what you want to do, but our wants aren't really the best.
It isn't
Or at
always
least
what ministry needs, right?
People love the power to say no. And but the thing is, when it comes to ministry and working in the kingdom of God, one of the things is letting that power go. I mean, that's one of the hardest things to do is God, I give you all. I give you everything I got. It's not just every little thing, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, from the start of the day to the end of the day. You got to have packed, I say yes to everything, but it's the principle of the matter of yes to your will, yes to your way, all those things. That it's the concept, it's the principle of it. It's not just the daily 9 a.m. yes, because it's just, you're right, it's just not feasible. But
We're not talking about burnout to the point if you're saying yes to every opportunity given to you. But yeah, it's the principle.
It's a
of the yes.
mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so the question was who
Mm-hmm.
and how they impacted. What was the
Just some ministry philosophies, mottos or
Okay.
quotes.
Well, Pastor Shine and Sister Lisa have had huge impacts on my life still to this day. Pastor Shine has always came up to me and encouraged me, and any times I had questions growing up, or he helped me with those. He helped fuel the fire and keep me passionate about ministry and God. And Sister Lisa, I am forever indebted. And if she's listening, thank you, because she was she was my Sunday school teacher, and my head was not where it needed to be, and she got onto me, and we didn't always have the most pleasant conversation. It wasn't that. It was just hard conversations, I'm sure, to say, hey, get your act together. And thank God I finally listened and did. And so I'm forever grateful for her. Brother Jeremy Dowdy has been a huge mentor for me. I've been able to spend a lot of time with him and learn from him. My parents were are fantastic. They've always pushed me to do and to go, and they've sacrificed for me. I get my work ethic from my father, and all those things. But then I spending time with Brother Jeremy, I see the pastoral side of it. And so being able to see that side was greatly beneficial to me, and how to handle situations, how to be an adult, and I learned a lot from him. One thing that I've implemented from a young age and is being sensitive. I'll never forget Pastor coming up to me as a young man, a young boy, and saying, "Stay sensitive." And he wasn't just talking about, oh, you got to cry all the time and that kind of staying sensitive, but it's just staying sensitive to the Spirit. And he told me one time, there was a evangelist there, a very powerful man of God, and he said, you can be like him by being yourself. And so just kind of staying true to yourself and letting God work through the talents that he's given you. He's given you talents and abilities. And so let God use those that he's already giving you, but staying sensitive to the Spirit, staying sensitive, and not trying to be too manly or too good or try to do it my own way, but always trying to follow after him. Those are kind of some of the things that I try to make sure that I'm always aware of, reminding myself of. So
Yeah, Pastor's really built a great standard. He kind of started off with our group, and we were a rough bunch of kids.
terrible.
First group of ministers.
Yeah,
so
bunch of punks. But and I don't know if he knows this, which I don't know if he'll make it this far into the podcast. So.
Has he been listening?
He does listen. I don't know if he listens this long though. But he's built such a standard, and I don't know if he realizes it, but we realize, and people who are going into MIT now, it's a high standard, but it's Pastor who's built that up and has invested in that ministry and in people to make things excellent. It's such an understated thing. The ability to connect with people, to teach them. And that's where I got my love for the Word of God, was Pastor Shine when we were, 14, 15. I mean, I always felt like an idiot when he would be like, hey, guys, give me a sermon on this verse. And I'm like, I don't know.
King Og in his bed.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think the most terrifying thing I ever heard you guys had to do was the 10-minute thing. Start it, open it, and close it.
Yeah.
When it was just all of us?
Yeah, when it was just because I walked in the sanctuary
Very
and walked out
uncomfortable.
because I was like, ugh.
Yeah. That was
I'm not gonna.
I thought I did awesome. I just thought I did better than everybody else. And that just as was how I felt. And I remember asking Pastor, actually you and I went to his office because I think we both felt similarly. And
I didn't feel like I did awesome, but I didn't feel like I did as bad as everyone else.
that's the truth. That's actually how
Good
I
way
felt.
to put it, yeah.
And
I've been working with you guys forever.
Yeah,
You guys
yeah,
need to be doing better than this.
yeah, he said, you guys should be better. You
Yeah.
guys have had mic time way more than anybody else.
Mhm.
And it was like, shouldn't have came in here.
Yeah.
should have just went home.
That's the moment you realized it was a mistake.
But one thing from that, we tell the story, oh, it was harsh and, but one thing I've grown to admire about Pastor Shine and truly where I think you find good leadership is knowing when to push, when to be kind, when to give a stern word, when to encourage.
And even when he does give a hard word, it's nice, so everyone knows. He's like, you hear some preachers like, oh, I gave him my mind and like yelled at him. Pastor would never do something.
It was never malicious.
No.
But for me personally, I needed pushed, and so Pastor, he would push,
Mhm.
And, but then there are times when I'm about to cry and he wouldn't push as hard. So, but that's something I truly admire is every situation. And he talks about in being a minister is if you're godly, you gotta be at a you know, you got to be the same person whether you're here at church, on the job, in Florida on vacation, and that's truly who Pastor Shine is. He's the same. He's going to give you the same wise counsel whether you're just sitting at a dinner table or you're in a counseling session. It's the same wise word, regardless of where he's at or what the situation is.
That's why he's the best.
Yep.
Man.
I want to end on this. What are our future plans for a school?
So it's a little complicated right now. We're looking at, there are basically two lines of things we're working on is the daycare and a school. And so there's a few different opinions on how to implement. You asked about the school specifically, whether we kind of grow it a little more organically. And so, we've got some kids that are homeschool. We've got some kids that already go to some private schools, whether we kind of try to mesh them together and create our own thing. And then we also have the just let's start it and get it going and, get the ball rolling. And so the thing is, there's a lot of hoops. We want to be legitimate, and but we also, we know that we're not going to start it off perfect from day one. We also are realistic in that. But one thing is, we want to have a safe environment for our kids to be able to have good education and godly education. And so right now we're trying to find our differentiator, which is God. And so trying to be able to communicate that with not just Apostolic Center congregation, but the community, if we open it up to the community. And so that's kind of where we're at right now, is trying to lay down some groundwork and, because there's a lot of logistics too. I mean, we've got to have certain things in place, just fire safety codes, all those types of things, classrooms, where we're going to have the kids. Are they going to share classrooms with Sunday school and Wednesday night classes? Are we going to have them all at the Life Center? Are they going to bring their lunches? Are we going to provide lunch? All those, there's a lot of logistic.
Now answer me this. Do we need a water fountain to do this school? Because we do not have a water fountain
We do not
in
have
our
a water
brand
fountain.
new Life Center.
That is true. That was
It's an
something
oversight.
We do not have a water fountain.
We got two gyms, but no water fountain.
That's a thing. You have to have a water fountain in a school.
I don't know.
There is
It's
In
just
case of
nice to
fire. In
have.
case of fire.
A water fountain.
Yeah, you
No,
turn it
not in
on.
case
You
of
just, I
fire.
swear to God, I'm going to come out from behind this desk.
It's for hydration.
There are some
It's
regulations
important to drink water.
for that, but I think we can get around it, obviously.
Yeah.
But
Just
yeah,
something
there.
like bring a hose in or something. And just
No, we need
Yeah.
a water fountain.
Yeah. Well, we're just
Is-
gonna have jugs of water sitting around.
There you go.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Water stations.
Yeah.
Oh, just get like the ones that they have in offices, like the
Yeah.
big, the big
Mhm.
jug. That's fine.
I haven't seen those in years.
So yeah. So we are trying to work through some. There's just a lot of hoops to jump through.
Things like curriculum and what's the best curriculum for our kids and
Is there
those kinds of questions as well. So
is there an age range you guys are going to start with, or
that's also something
That's
that we've
something else.
discussed.
That's something we've
as
discussed.
well. Yeah.
And that's from daycare up until high school, because if we do a daycare, does that include the preschool? Or does preschool fall under? Are we going to put that under the umbrella of the school dynamics and how we run that? And so, we've got a lot of support from the community, in especially the younger age group, that elementary school age. Of course, they're not as established. It's hard to pull a senior out of high school. That's just hard. And so I think one of the thought processes is to start young, and we grow with them. And so that's one way, but if we have some high schoolers or middle schoolers that say, hey, we want to come and be a part, we will, either provide an area for them to be kind of not self-taught, but to kind of go through at their own pace. Or, if we have enough, we can implement a high school and and actually have a full functioning high school. So
Realistically, like a high and low, 2 years to 6 years, 4 to 6. What are you guys thinking?
I am very optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said we would have a school last year. Obviously that did not happen. But I could foresee us having something this fall,
Okay.
fall 2023,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's a preschool and daycare or grade school, middle school. But I foresee us having something where kids are here on a daily basis.
Be awesome.
Starting this fall,
Awesome.
at least is kind of the plan. So.
Well, good. All right. Well, everyone, this is our last podcast for the year. We want to thank you all for listening with us these last 3 months. Please like and subscribe, and God bless. Have a great new year.